that, but I'm going to put all my allegiance to Sherry because we have we
A
have a
thing going
relationship.
on.
We have a relationship. We'll leave it like that, open.
No, but that's why I'm so nervous. I'm like, oh God. Okay, Kenny, you can probably see when I get nervous, I start doing this.
All right, let's do this.
Sherry, go ahead.
Because
Just
it is
jump
Kenny, we got to have so much time with this guy. Sherry, in 5 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Here we go.
In 3, 2.
Welcome back to Brian Sebastian's Movie Reviews and More. We have a fan favorite and an in-house favorite back visiting with us. He is a multi-talented, charismatic, very dashing in a tuxedo, and the one you can't take your eyes off when he's performing on stage. You might think that I'm referring to the lead singer of a band or the front guitarman, but no, I'm referring to our favorite, Kenny Aronoff, the drummer. Ever since we heard his lead introduction into John Cougar Mellencamp's Jack and Diane, we've been turning up the volume to all of his hit songs ever since. He has toured and performed with all the biggest names in music, such as Mick Jagger, Bob Dylan, B.B. King, and most recently, Jerry Lee Lewis. Expanding on his innate gift of rhythm and drumming, Kenny Aronoff has studied under luminaries George Gaber and Vic Firth. We can all attest that drums are simply an extension of his spirit, his passion, and his highly intelligent mind working together in harmony. It is the soul of this rare, once-in-a-lifetime artist that we are fortunate enough to witness perform. Kenny Aronoff, he's also a very successful motivational speaker. He's a drum instructor. He's the creator of mine and many of my friends' favorite coffee. And he's also the author of the very best-selling book, Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll. Welcome back to the show, Kenny Aronoff.
Thank you very much.
Hey.
That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Kenny, it's so nice to meet you. I've gotten to watch all of the interviews that we've done with you before, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. I can't even begin to tell you all the things that I've listened to and observed and pondered, and actually I have a very close friend of mine, a drummer as well, in Europe, and he actually has been following you for forever. He's been watching your sessions. You have your sessions on YouTube, and he was doing that years ago. I didn't even know that. And so you've been the very highly talked about topic of our conversations in recent days.
Wow.
So it's very good to finally meet you.
Is he sick of hearing about me, or are you sick about hearing about me?
Neither, and that's not going to happen. I think it's all of us are always learning, right?
Yeah,
so
course.
We can learn from you too.
That's so awesome. Well, I have this method called RPS, which is the repetition of any skill or anything is preparation for success. So in other words, if you work hard enough and doing what your life purpose is, which for me is playing the drums and playing music, all of a sudden you are a wealth of knowledge. It just kind of ends up that way.
Experience, and that's what happens. That's why they say life is always the best experience. If you don't do it, if you don't try, you never know.
Exactly.
So just go for it.
Yeah, and also embracing the difficult times, the difficult moments. Those are the believe it or not, those are the gifts. Those are where you're going to get the growth. You don't feel like it when you're going through a tough time. And in my book, Sex, Drums, Rock and Roll, you can see where I got my ass completely crushed and I was devastated. And, I was feeling fear and overwhelmed and like a loser and all the negative things you feel when you're a kid, especially. But those are the moments that really define who we are. And I know I sound like some motivational speaker, but I am. But the thing is those really are you embrace those things. If you really figure out that embracing those things, you'll push through. I mean, don't avoid those feelings. Embrace the feelings so that you can feel them and learn from them and get to the other side. I mean, that's really where I'm at now. That's the next level of growth.
Awesome.
So Kenny,
talking about growing in, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh no, go Jess, go ahead.
Okay, so when you were talking about initially, because like I said, I've watched everything. You said that you were a 10-year-old boy playing out in the yard. You heard the Beatles, and that was it. that was kind of your thing. So that was your initial start. But at what point, you said that you classically you're trained, and you went through all of that. You know how to read music, which also blows my mind, because again, my friend, he does the same thing. He writes everything out.
Yeah.
Because he reads, and I just look at it thinking, what in the world? How is it possible to read that fast? How does your brain fire that fast? So you started out in that realm, was because you said you're a hyperachiever. Do you accredit that to being able to expand and figure out what types of music you want to play? Or at what point did you go, you know what, this has been fun, now I'm going to do jazz. You know what, this has been great, but let me try country. How did that develop over your experience?
Well, I mean, it was a juxtaposition of both things. One, it was like I was open to everything, and basically, I mean, when I say juxtaposition, is to be able to read makes it possible for me to suddenly somebody says, "Hey, can you do this gig?" And it's like something extremely technical. I can't memorize it, but because I can write it down, that is the blueprint for me learning how to, you write it down, then you practice it. Remember, RPS, repetition, until you get into flow state. Flow state is when you don't have to think about it as much. You're just doing. And I live left brain, right brain at the same time. Left brain, hyperachiever, judgmental guy, really analyzing, studying, stickler, you know, trying to make sure I get every note right. But flow is the right brain where you're creative and you just let it happen, and it's a more natural thing. I can work in both worlds at the same time, which is a trip, because I think people usually are more one or the other.
Sure.
So if I'm on an intense show like the Kennedy Center Honors, you got Sting, Elton John, Chris Cornell, and Bruce Springsteen all playing one after another. I don't want to really blow anything. You know what I'm saying? So I want, in a very, very limited amount of rehearsals, I am striving to go to flow, but I'm very, very, one foot is grounded on that, the left brain, which is ready to solve any problem or disaster that happens at the moment. And so I'm in both places. So, okay, that's what I was saying about being in both worlds. Now, as far as, look, it gets down to this. It's chemistry. It's chemical. Okay, I'm a hyper little kid, right? Playing music made me get excited, which shot off endorphins and serotonin and dopamine. It was the natural high. If you want to break it down to that, it was a natural chemical high. Why wouldn't I want to go back to that? I was too young to drink or smoke pot. So I'm getting off on what I'm doing. Same with sports. I went after sports. By the time I was a sophomore, I was a 3 Letterman jock. So that means I was 16. Well, it's because it felt good to play sports. I loved it. I love it's a combination of feeling good, plus I love to be around people. I love to interact with people. So this team thing is perfect for me. And being in a band is a team thing, which is perfect for me. I get off on each person, and I can inspire. I was realizing, didn't even realize it, but I started to realize my excitement, my energy, whatever I did, was the ripple effect was affecting all the people around me. So they wanted me around, and that made me want to be around even more. They like me, So if somebody called me up and said, "Hey, man, you want to do this country gig?" I'm like, "Yeah," because it wasn't like, "Oh, I hate country music." It was like, "Oh my God, I get to feel that feeling again. I get to get high off of playing the drums." And then if somebody says, "You want to do jazz?" Man, I grew up hearing jazz, so yeah, man, that's cool, man. Let's do that. So I was open to everything because it gave me the opportunity to feel good and be around people, which made me feel good. So why wouldn't I do it? At the same time, I wasn't afraid to learn and grow, because there was no school of rock when I was a kid. So when it was time to go to college, in our family, you go to college. I said music, but it was going to be classical music. There was some jazz programs, but I had already figured out, you're not going to make a living playing jazz. At least you get in an orchestra. So I was practicing 8 hours a day. The day I graduated high school, I was practicing 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, completely in fear of being not very good in college. And I was way behind. I wasn't in the marching band or the concert band or the symphonic band in high school. Why would I do that? Three letterman jock, playing in rock bands. I was the hippie jock. I mean, why would I want to march? Corny. So I didn't. But my reading skills were way down, and my ability to play mallets and timpani and read snare drum. So I started practicing 8 hours a day, panicking, complete fear based, because when I went, I knew I was going to be behind, and I was horrifically behind. But dude, over the 5 years of being 1 year at UMass and fourth, the number one school in music, Indiana, I rose from the bottom to the top and eventually got into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. I mean, that was just from purely going after it. So I had that skill too. I love what I'm doing because it makes me feel good, but I'm also willing to suffer and get into the mud and learn, because I know the North Star is I'm going to feel good.
Mhm.
Kenny, you just
Very
explained
cool.
why I love drum and bugle corps music, because of that high. I never thought about it that way till you just described it for the first time. That's
Yeah.
why our drummers would be out there 8 to 12 hours in the hot sun in a different city each day drumming. And then so I want to thank you and Leland coming to the studio in Hollywood, because you guys didn't want to leave. You guys had fun, and that made me feel good that you guys have a home
Yeah.
that you can come to anytime.
Well, that was totally, yeah. We didn't want to leave. That's a natural, I didn't make a decision to stay there. I wanted to stay there. The only reason why I left is because I had to leave. I had things to do. So that's great. It's a compliment to you for sure that we wanted to be there. But you're so cool, man. Why wouldn't anybody want to be around you?
Well, but that's what you just said. It's what you just described. I never thought about that until you
Yeah.
said that. So
Yeah.
I've got it set. I've got it set up. When Sherry comes down, she's coming to the studio. When Jessica flies in, she's coming in. We're going to have a small little gathering, and we're going to surprise them. I'm not telling them what they're going to get, but I already know.
Well, I'm all for that, man. I like the surprise and I like to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I promise I won't let you down. So you just tell me what my instructions are. Yes, sir.
Hey, when you said you saw, Star of, of Indiana,
Yeah.
right? You were welcomed into the drum corps world, because you got a lot of new fans all of a sudden who didn't know who
Oh,
you are, but they know who you are now, because you think drum corps is cool. So all of a sudden, they're
oh man.
you now.
Well, you remember I said I got tears in my eyes. I was like so blown away by what I was seeing, and the perfection and the power and the amount of people on there. And I know what it takes to do that. I started crying. I was looking at people going like, what? Why am I crying? It was just overwhelmingly amazing. And this is like not me. I mean, I've been in music. I've seen a lot of I mean, I saw Charles Mingus and Ray Charles when I was like 13, no, even less, 11. And I've seen everybody, but that just completely blew me off my feet. It was just so spectacular.
Well, you talked about, now I understand why you finished being the number one drummer for 5 years straight. You just explained it to me why
Hmm.
that is, just always working, working, working 8 hours. And that's what drum and bugle corps people are doing. Working, working, working. You had that. So no wonder you ended up getting that. So year after year, you kept winning. What was that feeling like for you?
Well, I mean, it's like if you're in the middle of the Super Bowl and you're getting touchdowns, it feels good, but you still have to do your job. So you're focusing on, I'm still in the game. So, I mean, you remember Billboard magazine? I mean, dude, I would used to take a highlight, the top 40 singles. Dude, there was a time I was on like 15 or 12 in the top 40 on this is back when they had
Wow.
hit radio. That this wasn't like they had 50 different charts. It was like basically album oriented or singles. And if you were on any one of those, everybody in the world, well, everybody in the USA would know who you are, because that's big. Being number one on the top 100, singles and the top 200 albums was huge. So I'm watching myself on all these songs coming out one after another. Stevie Nicks, Belinda Carlisle, Mellencamp, Seeger, Rod Stewart. I mean, I can't remember, Puddle of Mud, Iggy Pop, you know, Mick Jagger, whatever, Bob Dylan. Um, the thing is, I was excited. I was like, "Yeah!" It just motivated me to even. It kind of rewarded me, made me feel like, man, this is a nice reward for the things I'm doing that I love doing, but I'm not taking it for granted because I want more. The hyperachiever wants, oh, I got 15, I want 16 now. I want 17. I want 18, and so all of that together, I was the guy, check this out. I was doing John Fogerty's tour, rehearsing for his tour. The first time he was going to play the Creedence catalog after 20 years. This is in 1997. Yes, 97. So I'm rehearsing from 12 to 6, doing Creedence songs. I'm like, I can't believe this. People kept coming in going like, who's doing that? And they'd say, oh my God, it's Fogerty doing Creedence. So that was big. Then from 6 to 7, I'd drive to the Valley, and then I'd record from 7 to 11 with Roy Bittan, the organ player from Bruce Springsteen. He was producing a singer-songwriter, Katie something, from Boston. Then from midnight until 5 in the morning or whenever I drop, I'm with the Rolling Stones.
Wow.
I'm doing percussion with the Rolling Stones and on Mick Jagger's solo record. On the weekend, I'm doing Bon Jovi.
Wow.
Now, this is like, first of all, it's an honor I get asked to do this. But the thing is, there was no question that I was going to do it all. I mean, by the end of 2 weeks, I was walking into the rehearsals, a little bit beat. But are you kidding me? I mean, even last year, now that I'm 21, last year, I remember 2 weeks in Vegas. I flew to Russia the whole trip, going over 34 charts because I got off the plane, went right to the Kremlin and rehearsed for 4 hours, woke up the next morning and rehearsed for 10 until 6. So that's 8 hours. Took a break and did a 4-hour show, filming, recording, and they had changed all the arrangements. I told them, you got to tell me if you're changing arrangements because everything's written out. They'd been rehearsing for 10 days. The only reason why I could do it is I can read. And the reason why they wanted me there is because they wanted me there. But my point is, I was willing to do it. They said, can you come 10 days earlier? I went, I can't. I'm in Vegas with Fogerty. They asked me too late. And I said, but wait a minute. I could leave on the 17th, land on the 18th, rehearse in the evening, rehearse on the 19th to do the show that night if you want. My point is, I was offering that. With most people go like, that's, well, I don't want the headache. I don't want the hassle. So, whatever, how many hours it took, 11, 12, 13 hours on the way to Moscow, I wasn't drinking booze. I was looking over my charts. And then on the way back, 3 days later, I'm running over 20 new songs for a veterans concert I'm doing in San Diego with Billy Gibbons, Steve Lukather from Toto, Nancy Wilson from Heart, and on and on and on. The point is, I wanted to do that. I still want to do all that stuff. And that starts to accumulate a lot of experience and a lot of different, because I'm fortunate that people hire me for different styles of music. And so it's just there's so many win,
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, your resume, you've got like a multi-million-dollar priceless Rolodex from your resume, but the range of the demographics that you performed with, like you've performed with Smashing Pumpkins, you performed with Johnny Cash. When you walk into the studio with them, do you have a sense of a different Kenny Aronoff where, like, for example, perhaps with Waylon Jennings, do you feel like the student, or, when you go to the younger band, like, do you feel like you're the master, or do you just go in as Kenny Aronoff?
I go in as Kenny Aronoff, but I'm okay. This is a skill. I'd have to say some of it was from my upbringing and born pretty much a happy child, and then in what I learned in my upbringing. But there's three things that now that I go back and look at it, I connect the dots. I'm going like, oh yeah, I know how to walk in and connect with somebody immediately. I size up somebody and I do it all naturally. I don't like think about it the night before. I don't think about it when I'm driving there. It's just as soon as I get in the room, I start connecting with somebody, and I just be me. But I'm also aware of who they are, and I don't just come in and just take my clothes off, go, here I am. I might do that for you, but not for Whalen Jennings. So the point is that let's stay focused now. The point is, I connect and then I start communicating, talking, you know. But so what's happened is now I've connected, communicating. Now I can play music with them, which I call collaboration. It's the CCC. And that is, like I said, I didn't calculate that. I'm looking back going, how did I do Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson on the Highwaymen record? And then I was doing Meatloaf at night, who's a complete different beast. I know how to connect, communicate, and therefore collaborate with different types of people. I always go in as Kenny Aronoff, but I'm also aware of sizing the situation up. Because as soon as if I say something that I see might offend somebody or they're not reacting, I'm willing to dance and partner in with them. It's a thing that this guy Keith Ferrazzi talks about, co-elevation. Co-elevation is me be really caring about you so that we have a great relationship and therefore can do great work.
Yeah, it's about adapting. Humans are so complex anyway. There's not just one of
Yeah.
you. You have all different kinds of personalities and feelings and emotions, and it's a blessing that you're able to feel that, to read it, because not everybody can do that, or maybe we can, but I don't think that some people are willing
Yeah.
or want to even try to do that, to be able to essentially empathize and to put yourself in the other person's shoes, find out what their situation is, find out what they're wanting, and then go, got it, let's work on this, let's adapt, and let's go from there. So I think that's huge, and clearly one of the main reasons why you are so blasted successful.
Well, no,
Because
everything you said was 100% right. Yeah, because if a person's going to hire a team of people, they're going to go, well, that guy plays faster and blah, blah, blah. Kenny doesn't do that, but I want Kenny in the room because he is a
they
team
know
player.
they know your work
Yeah.
with them. Yeah, they know.
And he will motivate the room. He will make my job better because if stuff gets weird, Kenny's cool. And another thing you mentioned is adapting. Humans naturally do not want to adapt and adjust. They just naturally, they get comfortable where they are. So if you understand that and you're able to adapt and adjust, oh my God, you'll work forever. People will want you around. The trick is to know when to, you have to have some sort of boundaries. I mean, there's a couple times where I've had to say, excuse me, can we have a talk? I mean, I won't mention any names. A very famous session. Well, I'll just say it was a Stevie Nicks session, and there was some frustration coming from the producer on the other side of the glass. And it was a big studio. It was back then. It was called A&M, and right there on La Brea, now it's Kermit the Frog. It's called Henson, and there's a big room called A. And I wasn't in the big room. I was in one of the smaller rooms off of it. So you had to go from the small room to the big room to get to the where the engineer is or the producer. He said something weird that I thought was a little bit crossing the line. I took my headphones off, put them down, and I started heading toward toward the control room. He saw that he met me halfway, and he's got his arms open. Kenny, he knew exactly what was going on. I said, dude, I'm here for you. You don't need to talk to me like that. And so, I mean, there are times I've had to do that. But here's another story that, like, okay, I'm sure you guys have noticed this. I'll talk from my perspective. Get on the bus, tour bus. All of a sudden, somebody says something, you're like, God, you're thinking, God, it's irritating you. Then somebody else says something, God, that's irritating me. And then a third person or something else happens. Everything's irritating me. Guess where the problem is? Woo! It's not them, it's me. I'm just having a day. And I don't want to say it's a problem. It's just that I have to have empathy for me too, where understanding, hey, dude, it's not like you're perfect and they're not. It's like, you're part of this situation too. It's not like if you're talking to the problems, it's not like, oh, they're the problem. Well, maybe it's all coming this way. Maybe I'm the problem. So what I do is I get
Yeah,
in my bunk
no,
and shut the thing, the
that's a
door.
huge part of it. We have to be aware too.
Get the
You
bunk
know?
and, yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, that's interesting that you say
And
that, Ken,
that,
because that's more of the Buddhist philosophy. Whatever's going around with you, it kind of starts with you. What did I do to cause that to happen? That reaction. Let me change it around. Yes.
yeah, at least be aware of it. At least be aware that that's possible. It
Yes.
could be
Yes.
you. It could be coming through you. If you're at least aware, then now you have empathy for you and others. It just makes it, and you'll get hired more. God, let's hire Kenny because he could take shit real good.
Kenny, you've got an amazing in-house studio of your own. Who can you tell us some of the performers that you've had in there?
Absolutely. And you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that question before, Sherry. All right, so well, not like that. Uh, so what am I talking about? Anyway, so okay, so I record with a lot of unknown people. Obviously, people send me files, but the names I just did Sammy Hagar on Access TV, one of the last segment of this year, which should come out in November, where Sammy has this road on the road or Roadhouse with Sammy Hagar. It's on Access TV, and he features somebody every week. So I got to not only did I get to play with him in my studio, but they did the whole episode here, and they honored one of my best friends who I was just at his house last night, and his locker is right there that way. Is Steve Lukather, the virtuoso guitar player who's one of the founding members of Toto, plays with Ringo Starr, All-Star Band, and his own solo career. And he and I used to do sessions forever. So that was cool. I also did a Sammy Hagar song I recorded here a couple years ago, featuring him and Run DMC, or not Run DMC. It was cool song. It never came out. I've done what's his name? Clay. No. Oh, the big country artist, Trace Atkins. I did
Oh,
Trace
I love
Atkins.
Trace.
Yeah, I did a cool. I did. It was of all things. It was the Christmas Carol drummer boy song. Da 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 rum pa pum pum. Wow, I wonder why they picked
The
me.
drummer boy, the little
Drummer
drummer
boy,
boy.
yeah, that's me, drummer boy. So I did. Let's see, David Pack from Ambrosia. I'm working on something with him right now. The guitar player played with Mr. Big. I'm skipping all kinds of people that are some big names. What have I done recently? It was really big, and I'm spacing it out. Oh, I forget some really cool stuff. I just did something huge, and I can't remember who I did it with. Oh, Desmond Child, who's had 62 hit singles on as a writer. He wrote stuff for Joan Jett, for Cher, for Bon Jovi. I think he was co-writer on Living on a Prayer. So yeah, those are some of the names. I know I'm skipping. Oh, the Bodines. I've done Bodines here. I just did something. Oh, Kiefer Sutherland. I did Kiefer
Ooh,
Sutherland's
yeah.
album from here just this year. They didn't tell me who it was until it was done. Oh, I did Avril Lavigne. I did some songs here. I don't know if it ever made it on the record, but I did that here. If I keep thinking, I'll come up with more. But yeah. See, I'm so busy I can't remember.
Just a few. In other words, just a couple.
Yeah.
No big deal. That's what.
Hey, Kenny, talk about the passing of our friend Eddie Van Halen. What was that like to hear that news?
Well, I knew it was gonna. I knew it was happening because Steve Lukather, like I said, and I are friends, and Steve, was really close to him, and I knew. And also, I'm friends with Michael Anthony and Sammy, and I'd heard it wasn't looking good, and so I knew that it was eventual. But my experience with Eddie, first of all, there's only a few guitar players that ever changed have changed guitar styles so much that have impacted so many people. One was obviously Jimi Hendrix, and the next guy I would say was, Eddie Van Halen, but the next guy would be Jeff Beck. I mean, these are guys that everybody models their guitar playing off of these guys. And Eddie didn't do it by accident. This guy, talk about RPS. This guy practiced gazillions of hours and he was a scientist. He used to experiment. He got electrocuted many times trying to take the guitars apart. He take he takes some very expensive guitars apart and mix and match them with pickups and speakers, and he created his sound. He wasn't just born great. He took what he had and made it amazing. So when I was the first time the first time I heard Van Halen was they came out with their record where I mean, wow, it was like a combination of Motley Crue, sex god guys meets, virtuoso musicians like from Russia, from the Mahavishnu Orchestra, or Zeppelin and Motley Crue put together. And so then in the 80s, I'm up in Canada, Sherry, and probably trying to find you or something. And we're playing at some sold out, I think we were in Toronto, sold out something. I don't know how when we got done, Mellencamp, I mean, everybody's up standing, screaming, we're rock stars. Everyone loves us all over. We've done SCTV, we've done VH1 up there, everything. And then somehow I ended up after our show at a Van Halen concert, the very end of their concert. And dude, I looked at the guitar player and went, now that's a rock concert. I mean, David Lee Roth with his hair out to there. He's got his ass hanging out of those leather chap things. He's got a ponytail coming out. And he's doing splits. Then there's Eddie with that grin on his face. And then Alex and Michael. I felt like I was some farmer with like a straw in my mouth with the blue jeans going, man, I play the drums in a rock band. That's a rock band. I couldn't believe it. And then, the next time I saw him watching the band, and all of a sudden I turn around, and there's Eddie smiling at me with that grin, with a drink. Then I turn that way, and there's Alex, and he had the ability when he used to drink, he could take a bottle. If you took a bottle of beer and just went like that, and it went, he could do that in his mouth. Just the whole thing would go. I was like, wow. Then he'd do it again. And then he'd do it again. These are rock stars, man. So, yeah, very sad, of course, very sad that Eddie passed. And I just was at Steve Lukather's house last night. And he lives on a private, like a street that dead ends. He said, yeah, we were talking about Eddie. He said, Eddie used to come up here in the middle of the night with one of his dragsters and go 80 miles an hour down this cul-de-sac. And everybody be calling me up and telling, get that guy off our street. And then this is the best part. He'd sometimes crash into a mailbox or something. Then he'd just leave the car and get a taxi home. That's a rock star. And I one time when I was last story I was on, I was out with Chickenfoot, and I was on a break or something, and I went to a concert downtown. It might have been Soundgarden when they played with Chris Cornell was still around. And it might have been at the Ford Theater or somewhere down there. And I hear somebody, I'm walking out and going to go somewhere, maybe go home. And I hear, hey, Kenny. And I turn around. It's Eddie. And he comes up to me and shakes my hand and says, hey, I'm Eddie Van Halen. You're playing with some of my buddies. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. Holy shit. Unbelievable. God, I got so many stories like that. It's just amazing.
Hey, we got
You should do, several more books. Just put them out there for us. We'll read them.
Oh, you should. You would like to read the book that I can't put out.
Maybe.
Yeah, like the one with me and Cameron Diaz.
Oh.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
You know why? The reason that didn't make the book is I didn't seal the deal. But the reason why it should have been in the book was not that it was 100%, but when somebody's sitting on your lap at 2 a.m. and got their arms around you and you're a rock star drummer in a bar in LA, you would think that the guy might go, hey, but I didn't. I went, you got a session tomorrow. You got a session tomorrow with Tony Iommi from Sabbath and Billy Corgan from the Pumpkins, and I just done one that day, and it was 13 hours with a 45-minute break. And I always put career in front of pleasure. So, 30 naked women in front of me. If I got to do a gig, sorry, I'll rain check.
Mhm.
I was like that
And
too.
see, and that's why you are where you are, because you've had that
Yeah.
from the very beginning. That's been your mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just wired that way. I'm not saying that it's a little bit of a challenge which way to go, but in the end I pick career over everything. Everything.
You
Everything.
also don't want to end up on TMZ being that guy and all of a sudden you lose the jobs. I understand that because when we get together,
Yeah.
Jessica and Sherry's there, I'll tell you my Eddie story too, because my favorite song is Ain't Talking About Love.
Oh yeah.
So and then with that, with Cameron, us drinking in Toronto at the Toronto Film Festival for very bad things. I can't tell those stories here, but I can tell them in the studio. So Kenny, give us your social media links so your new fans, these Drum and Bugle Corps fans, those drummers,
Yep.
can latch on to what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Drum and Bugle Corps people, please shout out to me. I love send me like 10 seconds of a cool cadence or
They
whatever
will.
instrument you play. I swear to God, send it to me. I love it. Okay, Instagram is my name, Kenny Aronoff. Twitter is Aronoff Official. LinkedIn, which is business, Kenny Aronoff. Facebook is I have a fan page and a personal page. Personal page, sorry everybody, I got I went to 5,000 in the first year it came out, which was like a long time ago. So go to my fan page. It's Kenny Aronoff. And then what have I left out? I think that's everything. And of course my website, www.kennyaronoff.com. And yeah, send me little snippets. That'd be awesome. Blow me away and send me the music and I'll practice it. RPS. RPS.
Jessica, social media links, please.
Jessica Heim, first and last name on Facebook. Jessica Heim 7 on Instagram, and on YouTube, it's Notes, the number 4, Life, all one word. Enjoy.
And
Hey,
Sherry, can we?
so
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
all right, so are we you what are you guys doing today?
Martin.
I bet you've never had anybody end a podcast with that. Hey, so
No.
what are you guys doing today?
I'll take it.
Oh, and so Sherry,
All right, so
show Kenny's book for the fans so they can order his book also.
oh man, you guys rock.
And don't forget the best coffee.
Kabam! So I just signed with LP Percussion and and I had a cowbell once with another company and I said we got to create a cowbell and I want to call it Kabam! Kabam! And the coffee's Kabam! It's so so yeah, I was going to call it Kaboom, but Kaboom is a toilet bowl cleaner.
It is. That's true. Yeah, definitely don't.
We gotta
I
get
didn't
into
know.
that because we're gonna have art in.
So
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you for putting it together. Jessica Heim, Buttercup, happy face there. I want to thank everybody. And if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. This is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More. We'll see you next week.